The hero's journey is a very powerful mythical narrative, but I often wonder how you distinguish it from the fool's quest or the fool's errand. Because the traditional hero story, the short version of it, is you go into the unknown, the chaos, you confront a monster like a dragon, you retrieve treasure or save a virgin maiden and bring it back, and you're lauded as a hero. You have something now of value to give. But how many of those were just fool's quests or fool's errands? What if you go into the cave, you go down into the unknown, and you find nothing, and you come back empty handed? Or you go and not even, ignoring the fact that the dragon can eat you and has probably eaten many others before you came, but you go there, and the dragon doesn't even care. It's like, take whatever you want. You're so useless and pathetic, you won't even be able to do anything with it. And you bring back what you think is treasure, what you think is of something of value. What if no one cares when you bring it back? What if it's just useless to everyone? Or they mock you for it? What are you supposed to do with that then? Go back out, find something else, try to turn it into something useful even though no one cares? No one has any interest? I mean, you can do those things, of course, but unless you're kind of a crazy person and have just this drive to always make things happen, which I have to say, I mean, we all have obviously some of that drive, but in the absence of receiving any positive influence, I don't see how it can continue forever like that unless you're kind of a crazy person. I mean, I often think back to my own childhood, and I try to think back, and what made me think of this was specifically Jordan Peterson. He did an interview, I think with a radio station or something like that in England, and he was talking about the plight of young men, that so many had never received any encouragement their whole lives, and they were soaking up his message of going out and trying to slay the dragon and build themselves up and become a better person. And I look at that and I think, even in my own life, I don't think anyone ever really gave me any positive influence or direction or encouragement. I was often told I was smart by certain people, but I mean, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything in and of itself. That doesn't give you a direction or anything to do. And I really received no encouragement in any regard to anything. And so the idea that we put ourselves together and make ourselves stronger and better people, that's all well and good, but what's the point? What's the point? Well, I think one answer could be that having a family and children is very important, because I certainly value my children above all else. And I really don't care. Everything else is secondary to that. Whatever fame or fortune may be out in the world is secondary to my children, and ensuring that they thrive and grow in a positive manner. But I think this message of, if you take away the kid component of having your own children, I'm not sure that there is a single reason that you should push yourself to be the best person that you can possibly be. I know one refrain that's often given is, well, what else are you going to do? Have you not looked around? There's unlimited amounts of porn, unlimited amounts of drugs that you can take virtually in the world, entertainment of all sorts, live or on your phone or in the TV, music that you could listen to forever and never probably reach the bottom. I don't think you could listen to, even probably 10% of all the music that's digitally available right now for the rest of your life. And they're always making more. I mean, what are you going to do with your life? What else? I mean, there's a lot else to do. A lot else that has meaning. Well, it's very meaningful to have a family. It certainly is very meaningful to have children. It's probably the most meaningful thing I think that any of us will ever do. But when you've never received any positive encouragement about really anything in your life, it makes that goal seem very far away. And even when you get to that goal, it seems very much like an uphill battle to make sure that your children grow in a positive manner and that they will thrive. And, obviously what you want is for the children, like in my case, you want your children to do way better than you did. You want them to make better decisions, better things earlier in life. And that sort of just better overall, and not spend so much time making stupid mistakes at a young age when you could be using that time, to really push ahead and have a better outcome years later. I mean, one of the things that I often feel slightly depressed about is, I live in an older town that was here for quite a while in the United States. And I look at the roads that were here, and some of these roads have probably been around here 60, 70, 80, some of them probably 100 years. And I look at them and think, how many people, the first people that made that road just had to use shovels, pitch, axes, pitches. And I wonder, picks rather, and I wonder what they, how many people sweated hard work to make this road just so we can drive back and forth from like the store to my house. How many people died making and maintaining this road over 70 years? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about the sacrifice that those men made. And they were, undoubtedly up till very recently, all those types of jobs were held by men. I mean, how many people care about their sewage system, that it works? I mean, you certainly care if it doesn't work. You immediately care if you can't flush your potty. That is an immediate problem and concern. But look at all this that works. Look who maintains it and built it originally. How many injuries were sustained making this stuff so that we can have this comfortable, easy life? And nobody cares. Nobody absolutely cares. So these men, they did live out the hero's journey. Most men did. All of this so that we can build it. And in the end, nobody cares. And I especially nowadays, I mean, I think maybe in the past you might have had an appreciation for the culture and the history. But nobody cares about who builds the road and maintains it. Nobody cares if the water, every time you turn it on, that it flows. Whether you have electricity or natural gas for your home. And how many people had to work to make that possible? Mainly men. Nobody cares about their hero's journey. And certainly we all benefit from it. And everyone enjoys that. But that's what I really wonder at, is in the larger society, even if you move beyond the family, nobody cares if you go on your hero's journey and you're living it. And that's an awfully hard thing to take, because you have to actually find some intrinsic reasons for wanting to do that. Something that can give you a positive boost. Like, one thing that always appealed to me was, the parables in the Bible. I love the parables. I still do. And even the Jesus story, I found that very compelling. But I never for a second wanted to be Jesus. To take all the sins of the world on yourself. Say, oh yeah, all that stuff that everybody's doing, that's on me. And I'm going to let you guys torture me and kill me for that. Really? That doesn't seem remotely fair. It's probably the most unfair thing that's ever happened. And I certainly understand, the what propels that story is you can't have the future without those sacrifices really being made, or at least a positive future, a better future. So I can understand that when you have kids. But if you don't have kids, you're not interested, or you feel it's too much of a hassle, or you literally can't find anyone to have children with, no one that will mate with you basically and make a life, which certainly does happen to a lot of men. I think it's mainly men. Women can always find someone to have a child with. That's not really a problem. What do? You can't have a hero's journey, really. And, with the talk now of there's so much more automation going on. I mean, I myself tried to make a career change a few years back and was completely unsuccessful. I went back to school. I got a certification, put in a few applications for some jobs, and was roundly just tanked all the way around. And had to give up on that. But what are you supposed to do with automation coming and they get actually self-driving cars? Like, what are all those men's heroes' journeys going to matter to? Nobody already cares about them. Nobody cares about your stuff at Walmart. Somebody had to drive that there. So they're not going to care when it switches to automation. And I don't know how we can, as a society, get back to rewarding those positive behaviors and those positive sacrifices that move us forward. Because it seems that our modernity, this inevitable crunch, which certainly there's I guess, crunch forward in a direction. I'm not sure it's like a positive necessary overall direction, but certainly this crunch forward from all of our technology that we're having. And there's no looking back and appreciation of the past. In fact, the past is something to be made fun of and derided, or to be used as a weapon against people. How do we overcome that? Because sacrifices need to be made now so that the future will be better for our children. And if you don't have children, then what do you care? Do you care about the future if you don't have kids? I kind of think you don't, except your own future, obviously. And probably not that far. You're just thinking about a week or two or a year ahead. You're just thinking to the next vacation. I don't know. And it just really does trouble me, because very soon, I mean, we already have, sex robots. And they're not super sophisticated, although they're getting better every time that I see a news article about it. They're getting freakily looking like people now, more scarily and scarily. And I don't think it's out of the realm of imagination that in 5 or 10 years, those will become fairly common among youth. And men and women won't have, that's only lessening our chances of having children and making the sacrifices. That sacrifice that is really hard to make, that you're not appreciated. Nobody cares about what you do. But at the very least, you can sleep at night knowing that you're trying to make the world a better place for your kids and your grandkids and their future generations. Like, that gives me hope at night. But if you take away the kids, that seems utterly hopeless and very sad. And the hero's journey fails at that point. If you bring back stuff and nobody cares and nobody wants it, where does the hero's journey go then? It's a fool's errand. It's a fool's quest. What do we do when the hero's journey has failed? It's failed not because you failed in your endeavor. Not even that. Because things are still working. The water still flows. The sewage goes away. The roads are still here. Power still turns on. So that's still working. But for how much longer? How much longer without the hero's journey being rewarded can it continue? I don't think it can continue forever like that. And that's the future that we're seeing, is that the hero's journey is failing, and that we're all on a fool's quest, and we'll only be ridiculed or ignored, which is more likely ignored, which is even worse. At least if somebody makes fun of you, you might get mad and get angry and go back out there or something, right? But when you're just ignored, nobody cares, it's very hard to keep going with that motivation. And I only see the birth rates really going down in most modern countries. The only thing keeping the birth rates up in a lot of countries are immigrants. And when you take out the immigrants and their birth rate, you look at the native population, their birth rate, it's atrociously low. And without children, I don't see why the sacrifices aren't, I just don't think they're going to be made. They simply are not going to be made to make the future better, or even perhaps maintain what we have. I don't even think it will be, because people are only thinking as far as their next vacation, the next Christmas maybe just the next party. And it's very troubling to me, because we either need to reward that hero's journey. As a society, we need to make some sort of decision to do that so that it will continue to be made, or we're going to have to find something beyond the hero's journey that will compel us forward. However, given how the hero's journey does seem to be almost embedded a little bit in our biology, I don't know that there is another option besides that. I mean, there's always the Savior's journey, like Jesus' journey, but all you end up then is you end up dead on a cross. And certainly it's a great gift that was given to everyone else. But if nobody cares, if nobody cared about Jesus, that wouldn't be worth it. That wouldn't do anything. That would be useless. And that's what I fear that's coming to with this hero's journey that has so far propelled society forward and now is faltering. And I would really appreciate if anybody has anything to add to this, because I would like to have a little bit of hope here. I would like to have a way that we can see forward in doing this. And I do fail at times to see a way as a society, overall picture, that we can change our trajectory to be going upwards instead of this stagnation and rot that we seem to be going through ever since the 60s and 70s. So I definitely would appreciate anything that you can say to give me a bit of hope, and that we know that it isn't all for naught, and that we're not all living the fool's quest. Thank you.